Good evening, my friends. Today we're moving on to chapter 22 of Numbers. And this story about Balaam, man, it's just a crazy story. But I want to point out what I think. I mean, maybe I'll even speak more about this, but I want to point out what is most interesting about this to me. Um, Numbers 22, starting in verse 20, it says, "And God came unto Balaam at night and said unto him, If the men come to call you, rise up and go with them. But yet the word which I shall say unto you, that shall you do. And Balaam rose up in the morning and saddled his ass and went with the princes of Moab. And God's anger was kindled because he went. And the angel of the Lord stood in the way for an adversary against him." So, doesn't that seem a little confusing? We need to dive into this a little bit, I think, because God just told him in this verse, God came unto Balaam at night and said to him, If the men come to call you, rise up and go with them. So then Balaam rose up in the morning and saddled his ass and went with them, but God's anger was kindled because he went. Okay, now that seems to be a contradiction. God just visited him and told him, if they come to you, go ahead and go with them. But then he goes and God is angry that he went. But let's understand that. Let's look into that a little bit, because here, okay, God had already told in verse 12. So Balak, the king of Moab, had sent to Balaam saying, hey, I know that whoever you bless is blessed and whoever you curse is cursed. Come and curse this people for me. And Balaam went, and the Lord told him this. And God said unto Balaam, You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. So God had already told Balaam not to go with them, okay? And not to curse the people. So this is going to help us understand this confusion where it seems like God is contradicting himself, where he's telling him, go, and then when he goes, he's angry. But God had already told Balaam, don't go and don't curse the people. But here's what happened. Balaam got up in the morning and he told Balak, I can't go with you. So then the princes that he had sent go back and tell Balak, hey, Balaam's not come with us. So then in verse 15 we see Balak, he's smart. He sends more princes to Balaam, but then this time he sends princes more honorable than the other princes, like more pompous, more flattering, to appealing to the eye, something that would draw Balaam's flesh. And they came to Balaam and they said unto him, uh, you know, don't, you must come with us. And he's saying, for I will promote you, in verse 17, I will promote you to very great honor. I'll even give you even up to a house full of silver and gold, So, but then this is what happens. So then Balaam, instead of being smart and telling the people, look, God already said no. Why would God change his mind? Okay? He says right here in verse 19, he says, Now therefore I pray you, tarry here also this night, that I may know what the Lord will say unto me more. The Lord doesn't change his mind, okay? The Lord says what he means when he says it. Why would he even wait? You can already see that Balaam was being drawn away and enticed by the idea of being rich and attaining great honor. And later on, God's anger was kindled, because later on we see, and I can't remember exactly where the verse is, but if you look in even in the New Testament, it says that Balaam, They have gone in the way of Balaam. They have erred in the way of Balaam, who loved the wages of unrighteousness. And then also, you see later in this book that Balaam counseled the Moabites to go and lead the Israelites astray to sacrifice to idols by bringing ungodly, beautiful women to draw them away to sacrifice. And it's that story where Phinehas, Aaron's son, puts a javelin between two people, the Israelite and the Moabitish woman, and puts an end to God's wrath that was upon him. But I just wanted to point that out, that God had already told him what to do. Like, there was no reason to even go to the Lord again. So the Lord said, okay, yeah, you obviously want to go with them. So, but when you go, you say only what I'm going to say. And then the Lord it was a test. You know what I mean? Like, there was no point in him going with them. He should have just gone back and said, look, Balaam, when the princes came back and they were more, offering more money and whatever they were doing, he should have just gone back and said, look, I already told you what the deal is. It doesn't matter. There's no point in going back to the Lord. He's not going to change his mind. So the error of Balaam was that he loved money, and God saw his heart. He saw that he was enticed when he was offered riches, and he really wanted God to change his mind. He wanted God to see, look, you're withholding from me this wealth. You know what I mean? Don't withhold wealth from me. Let me go curse these people. Who cares? I need the money. You know what I mean? So the error of Balaam was that he loved the wages of unrighteousness. He was drawn away and enticed because of money. And the Lord is going to test us in these ways. He's going to test you in this way. You're going to hear something from the Lord. You're going to know the right thing to do. But then the enemy is going to present the same circumstance to you, but he's just going to make it look a little better. It's going to be a little more enticing. It's going to draw you away a little bit more. It's going to make your heart, and you're going to question. You're going to be like, God, are you sure you don't want me to do that? This seems legit. It's going to gratify the desires of my flesh. And God's going to be like, look, whatever I told you from the beginning, that's what the deal is. Don't be double-minded, because the enemy is putting some new icing on the cake to make it look a little bit more delicious, or because he's sprinkled gold flakes on it, or threw some dollar bills out there, some hundos, and put some stacks of cash on top of the deal. Okay? Be free from being double-minded and questioning what God has already told you just because it's going to make life easier. God bless.